Hello everybody, Wastelander here, and today I wanted to do some common sense, particularly police. Now, I'm going to say that I'm biased. I'm not going to pretend that I am anyway a neutral party in this. But I also want to share some of my views and my opinions and kind of rant about this a little bit. And hopefully you can either take this and learn something, or you can go on and continue doing whatever you do. Whatever. That, or you can use this to consider the other side a little bit more. And today I just kind of wanted to show a bit about police and go over maybe some possible misconceptions and some facts. But all you cop haters out there know cops are generally not, nowadays, they are not racist. They are not misogynist. Now, there are times where you do get bad cops. I will fully admit that there are bad cops out there. But for the most part, if you are following the law, you have nothing to worry about. You have all these different people who want to say that whatever they did was not illegal. The cops would know better because they kind of have to know the law in order to enforce the law. So don't argue with cops. That's the number one thing. Unless it's absolutely clear that you've done nothing wrong. Okay, there might be some leeway there, but on the other side of that is you still don't want to fight a cop, because that will still bring down a lot of trouble for you. If you think that you did nothing wrong, just comply until the cop is obviously corrupt and wants to do you harm. Okay? And go through the legal system and go to court. If the cop says, get out of the car, you get out of the car. If the cop says, give me your license and registration, you give them your license and registration. You don't do a bunch of other stuff. Okay, and there's a bunch of reasons for this. Okay, do you know how many criminals have been caught just because of simple traffic stops? Quite a few. Okay, but do you also have any idea how many criminals end up trying to shoot cops during traffic stops? Quite a few. So, traffic stops and domestic violence calls are some of the more dangerous activities that police can do, besides, the active shooter or even the hostage situation calls and whatnot, which they also respond to. Okay, they do a lot. They deal with a lot of crap, and sometimes it's you guys who are creating this crap for the police officers. When you drive under the influence and get into a wreck, okay, when you flee the police, whatever you end up doing, even if you're just being a real pain in the rear during a traffic stop, even if you're not doing anything wrong, you're still giving lip to the police officers who are really just trying to do their job. Okay, and that doesn't help anybody. Okay, if now I will say that police management and setup could probably be a little bit better. Okay, we could do better at weeding out some of the bad cops and keeping some of the good cops. Okay, stuff happens. Well, I'd like to think that most cops are good, and that if you're following the law and doing what you should, you have nothing to worry about. Cops aren't out to get you. But I will say that there are a few minor exceptions. Okay? Like this, for example. I'd say this is a bit of an exception. She falls over and he gets upset and he starts punching her. Okay? The other two officers try and separate them. That's against code. He's not supposed to do that. Everybody knows he's not supposed to do that. Okay, she's in cuffs. She doesn't seem like she's very uncompliant. Okay, well, she did just try to kick there. Okay. But she might be intoxicated or who else. I don't really know the full situation, but as far as anybody else can tell, those strikes were out of bounds. They were not supposed to happen, okay? He was out of line with those punches. Okay. And and you get stuff like this on occasion. Okay, I have to say that. And this is probably the dark side of police. You do get corrupt cops. Not that police in whole are a good thing, but you do get corrupt cops like this. You get people who are too emotional and they do stuff like this, or you get somebody who doesn't really care about the law and they're there for other things. Okay, and you get a cop that's good who becomes corrupt. I mean, we see it in movies all the time. Okay, we get cops who might potentially turn around and take evidence like drugs that they got from a drug bust, and they will turn around and sell those. Okay, watch Courageous. It's happened. I would not be surprised if it's actually happened in real life. It's a thing. It's sad. Okay, and it's very, very disappointing to see an officer of the law do something like this. And then we got stuff like the Tyree Nichols situation. Okay, and that is a tragedy. That is horrible. Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, those cops were hired by the city, and I'm going to. Here's where part of my bias comes in. A Democrat-run city. Democrats hired these cops in a Democrat-run city for the sake of diversity. Okay, of representation. Okay, after standards were lowered in the department. After hiring standards were lowered. And all these guys who were involved in the Tyree Nichols incident, okay, all those cops, they were all black, and they were all in gangs at the time they were hired. This was a hit. Okay, they should have known better. The department should have known better. Okay, the city should have known better. Okay, and it's very sad that something like this happens. I don't want anybody saying, "Oh, my white supremacy," "Oh, my racism," because that's not what this is. This is just gang violence with these cops being inside the gangs at the time that they were hired. You can look it up. Okay, it's been reported on. They were all in gangs. Okay. I don't even know if the guy who was pulled over did anything wrong. Okay. Not only that, this is completely obvious. Just about everything they did during that traffic stop was unwarranted. Okay. That was purely nothing but abuse, assault, and battery. Okay. I haven't followed up on it at all, but they should be charged. Okay, if they have not been charged already, they should be charged, fired, and thrown in jail. That is what I think. Because real cops do not act like that. They should not act like that. Okay? They were, not only were they complete idiots and untrained, they were also still gang members when they were hired. Okay. But for the good cops, when somebody says this is abuse or something like that, think about it from the cops' perspective. They're just trying to do their job. Okay? And you are sitting there screwing everything over. Okay? You have a traffic violation, maybe. Okay? And you decide you don't want to deal with it, or you refuse to acknowledge it. And then the police give you an order, and you refuse. They are then forced to take action. Okay? Here's a very good example right here.
For a defective equipment, it's $80. You're back. Put Well, I did issue for a defective equipment. It's $80. You have till September 16th to take care of this. Get you to sign there with the Exodus.
So you don't even give a warning for this?
You've been driving around for 6 months like that.
I'm truthful.
Well, I'm not going to give you a warning for something you've been driving for 6 months.
But you've seen me in here. You've seen me in.
Okay, so here's the thing. She's refusing to sign this. Okay, but pretty much saying that she refuses to acknowledge this. Okay, she's complaining that she hasn't even gotten a warning. Okay, now it's understandable if you're asking for a warning instead, if perhaps you had no idea. But they're saying that this has been going on for 6 months. Okay, 6 months. And if she realized this, she had enough time to repair it, whatever it is. Now, I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but he's citing her for faulty equipment. This might be turn signals, headlights, whatever. You know you need to have those repaired and up to date. Okay, they need to be working. It's a traffic safety thing. And she's trying to make the argument, well, I've been here through many times, everything's fine. Well, just because you've been through many times doesn't mean that this particular officer has seen you, or that any particular officer has actually taken notice to your activities at all during that time. Just because they happen to catch you now, rather than any other time, does not make anything invalid. It's still very much valid. Okay, you had the opportunity to fix it. You didn't fix it, and now you're refusing to acknowledge it, okay? Because they are, putting a fine on you for, what was it, 80 bucks? What was the fine?
6 months.
But you've seen.
For 6 months like that.
I'm truthful.
Take care of this. Get you to sign there with the Exodus.
So you don't even give.
You have till September 16th. For a defective equipment, it's $80.
80 bucks.
September 16th
80 bucks.
to take care of this. Get you to sign there with
Okay.
the Exodus.
So you don't even give a warning for this?
You've been driving around for 6 months like that.
I'm truthful.
Well, I'm not going to give you a warning for something you've been driving for 6 months.
But you've seen me in here. You've seen me in
No,
town.
I haven't.
You had to have been up here.
Nope.
Alright. Just because you've been up there doesn't mean that anybody's seen you. Okay? Just because they haven't caught you earlier does not make it invalid.
Either way, I'm issuing you a citation. Sign there, please.
Well, I don't want to sign it because I don't want to do $80.
You don't want to sign it?
No, because I don't think that I deserve to pay $80 for something that is fixable and I can fix it.
All right.
That
Okay? Yeah, it's fixable and you can fix it. You should have fixed it months ago. Else you would not be in this situation. Okay? Sign it. If you think it's not good, you can contest it. That's why we have the court system. You can contest it. Now, not that the court system isn't perfect. Okay? Because it's not perfect. There are holes and issues and loopholes that need to be fixed. I can acknowledge that as well. But you don't pull this kind of BS.
That's all you want.
Here's why.
Why?
Because you're under arrest. Step out. Step out of the vehicle.
No, I'm not.
Step out.
No.
Step out. I'm giving you a lawful order. Step out.
Okay. I believe this is a court case. Okay, court law. Pennsylvania versus Mims. If an officer tells you to step out of the vehicle, it is a lawful order, and you are supposed to step out of the vehicle. Donut. Look at Donut Operator. Donut Operator is a former police officer. He's now a YouTuber. He does a bunch of police breakdowns. He's gone over this many times. Okay, look it up yourself. Pennsylvania versus Mims. Okay, officer tells you to get out of the vehicle. You're supposed to get out of the vehicle. Now, the reverse is also true. If an officer tells you to get into your vehicle and stay there, you're supposed to do that too. Okay, there are both lawful orders. Okay, so just keep that in mind here. Here's the other thing you don't do.
You be fair with me and I'll be fair with you.
Step out.
No.
You're under arrest.
No, I'm not.
and she flees traffic stop and is evading police. Okay, now I'm going to go back to here. Look, if you just look at this, this is traffic violations. Okay, if you don't pay the fine, you could be put in jail for 5 to 80 days. That's a few months. Okay, if you had not decided to sign and you just decided to, do the jail time, minimum of 5 days, sure, probably wouldn't be the most pleasant, and it would have only been jail. It wouldn't have been prison or anything. It would just be the local jail. 5 days and you're out. Okay, you could have either paid the $80 or decided to go to jail and serve, minimum of 5 days. Okay, but that's Kansas. That's Kansas. It could be different per state. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. Okay. But she decides to flee instead. Okay, she decides to flee and evade police instead. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to go over here. Okay. Jail time for evading police. A misdemeanor conviction will not result in any more than a year of imprisonment. Okay. No more than a year of imprisonment. Evading a year can land you... evading a police officer can land you a year in prison. Okay? Resisting arrest, which she is. Okay? Whether that's fleeing the police or giving any kind of action that would prevent them from putting you in handcuffs and putting you in a vehicle. Misdemeanor resisting arrest and felony offense of resisting arrest. Okay, up to a year in county prison for resisting arrest. Okay, for a felony offense of resisting arrest, 16 months, 2 or 3 years in county jail. You are just adding more offenses to a simple traffic stop. Okay, and this is why people have a problem with police, because people pull dumb stuff like this.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car!
Okay. You guys probably see that he's got his service pistol drawn. Okay, his service, you'd say that this is probably a bit overreacting, but here's the thing. She is in control of a vehicle. That is I don't know how heavy that is, but it's really heavy, probably near enough to a ton. You get that thing moving at any speed, and it's dangerous. Okay? People have smashed into buildings, killing themselves and knocking down the wall, killing people on the other side of that freaking wall. Okay? It's not the first time that people have used vehicles as a weapon. Okay? If she drives around and does it right, she can hit that officer. So, she's in control of a deadly weapon right here, which is why he has his gun drawn. Okay? Well, once again, I'm going to direct you to Donut Operator. Something like this has happened more than once. Okay? One guy hopped into a car while his friend was sitting by the back tire. Okay? All while the police were doing a stop on them. They were supposed to be detained, and the guy hopped into the car and started to drive off and almost ran over his friend. Almost crushed the guy under the car. Okay? He got shot because he was in possession of a deadly weapon, almost killed a guy with it, and was trying to flee the police. Okay? So, under that context, unless you're an idiot, this seems reasonable. She's in possession of a deadly weapon. He is in control of a deadly weapon. Okay? This is kind of equal response here. Sure, she hasn't really shown herself to be a threat, but she's evading the police. Once again, I'm going to say a lot of criminals have been, found, captured, and detained, and arrested because of simple traffic stops. Okay, this is something that has happened more than once. Okay, this is probably, procedure here. This is now more or less a felony traffic stop. Okay, or at least near enough to. Okay, you don't have exactly a whole squad of guys stacked up here doing this felony traffic stop. Okay, giving you orders to step out of the vehicle or else everybody's going to shoot. Okay, it's not quite to that level yet, but she has shown that she is not willing at all to comply.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car!
Okay, at first I thought that he was going to try and smash in the window, but no, it's unlocked.
You better leave me.
Okay, and that's resisting arrest.
Put your hands behind your back!
That's resisting arrest.
Put your hands behind your back!
Okay, see, that's resisting arrest. Okay, that's resisting arrest with violence. Okay, she kicked the officer, no matter how lightly, that is still assault. Now here's the other thing. Here's something very funny. Spitting on an officer is spitting on anybody is considered an assault. Okay? Now here's why. It may be that the spitter had no intention to break the law or hurt the person he spit on or at. But because spitting on someone can be considered an application of force, i.e. making contact with another person in an offensive manner, it qualifies as simple assault. Here it is. The law in Penal Code, section 424 PC, okay? To prove that someone is guilty of battery, prosecutors must prove that the person willfully and unlawfully touched the other person in a harmful or offensive manner. Okay? In this situation, spitting counts. Clearly, spitting on someone on the purpose is a willful action. While it may not seem like it is, but it is really an unlawful use of force or violence. It can be defined by, it can definitely be a touching that is a harmful or offensive. But here's the thing, it really can be counted as assault biologically, okay, or chemically even. There are diseases that can be passed through your saliva, which is an even bigger reason why I'd say spitting on someone counts as assault. Okay, because the Epstein-Barr virus, mononucleosis or mono, and type 1 herpes, and strep bacteria, hepatitis B and hepatitis C. These are some of the different germs and diseases that you can pass on through your saliva. Okay, so spitting on somebody is an assault, and spitting on an officer is an assault on an officer, and that's an offense that you don't want. Okay, but resisting arrest. Definition of resisting arrest. Without violence is any non-violent interference directed at a police officer who is acting pursuant to a legitimate law enforcement action. So far I see that this is legitimate. He was trying to serve her with papers of sorts, trying to get her to sign. Very legal. She refused and drove off. As far as I understand it, as my understanding being flawed, look it up. She was probably detained. As far as I know, if an officer pulls you over, you are detained until he says that you're free to go. Okay? And refusing to get out of the car, okay, he has to drag her out, put her to the ground.
Put your hands behind your back! Put your hands...
Okay, verbally resisting, physically resisting. She's trying to keep her arms out from behind her back. That is resisting arrest. Okay.
Put your hands behind your back!
Anybody who doesn't know the law or understand what police goes through, they see, the woman screaming, "Leave me alone," and being tased. That's all they see, and that's all they care about, and they go, you know, police abuse. Okay, police abusing their power and whatnot. That's not the case. She was pulled over and she fled. Okay, unlawfully. Okay, and is now facing the consequences of that. Okay, this is kind of what happens. Okay, that's the consequences of this. It's not pretty. It's not pretty. If people would just comply, it would never get to this point, though. That's my thing. Okay. But here, let's look at other stuff. Okay. There's also this. This is very, very sad.
We turn next tonight to new surveillance coming in just before we came on the air tonight in a troubling case. Video from that neighborhood where a 73-year-old grandfather suffering from dementia was shot and killed by police during a late-night walk. Officers were responding to a call from an eyewitness, but the family says he had no gun and was wandering because of the dementia. Here's ABC's Matt Guthrie.
Scrutiny is mounting tonight against the Bakersfield, California shooting and killing that unarmed 73-year-old man. Just before 1 a.m. on Monday, you can see in this surveillance video police responding to this dispatch call.
Brown jacket, unknown if under the influence, armed with a revolver.
But the dispatcher also alerts officers about something else.
Francisco Cerna reported us to having dementia.
Mabel Jones' daughter made that 911 call about Cerna not recognizing her neighbor.
They told him to go back across the street. Don't come out, go back. And he just kept coming. And they shot him.
Francisco Cerna lived in that house, and it was just feet from his front door where the officers encountered him right in the driveway of his neighbor's house, and it was here that they opened fire.
Neighbor Donald Clark heard the gunshots.
They killed that man for absolutely no reason.
Neighbors are saying that that man was killed in cold blood.
I think the investigation will show that. Our officers are trained to and are allowed to use deadly force.
ABC News has learned at least 7 shots were fired. Tonight, Cerna's family is demanding justice.
They all knew this was the man with dementia, and my father gets killed. That's just inexcusable.
We may never know exactly what happened, David, and that's because this department says there was no body cam, no dash cam, and no surveillance video of the shooting itself. David.
Matt Gutman with us tonight. Thanks, Matt.
Okay, and that was 6 years ago. How many people even know about this one, huh? And this was a white old guy with dementia. Stuff like this happens. It's very sad. It's very tragic. Okay, miscommunication. Okay, one side says that he has a gun. The other side, claims that he was unarmed. Police don't know that. Okay. And there's a bunch of other instances as well. Okay, of stuff like this happening. Okay. But did you have any idea how many white guys are still shot by police? Okay, how many white people are shot by police? My desktop is a little slow. Okay, only seems to be increasing. Well, I'd say that's because there's a lot of violence. Okay, it doesn't specify color, but I know that there's, more than just black people who are being shot at. It's a fact. But the media only ever covers, black people getting shot because they can spin it for some narrative. It's what we saw happen with George Floyd and Nichols. It was spun for a white supremacist narrative. It's not the case. It's not the case at all. Okay? But if you want to see what cops deal with a lot, look at some of these. Okay? We got deadly shooting right here. We got ambushed at a domestic violence call, and then we have the reason why a cop carries 145 rounds. Here, let's do the deadly shootout. And a completely normal interaction.
These cars? No. We'll look at you in a second, okay?
Okay. Nothing suspicious going on. Pulls out a gun and starts shooting. Thankfully, the officer wasn't injured. Well, obviously he got hurt really bad. He's probably in shock right now, but he got hit in the chest where he's wearing a ballistic vest. Thankfully, she was there to back him up, else he'd be in real trouble. He's probably a trainee or something. But she took down the suspect. Okay. Video from surveillance camera showing suspect pulling out gun. Okay, leading up to the shooting. Okay. There's the officer. Completely normal interaction. I also want to point out that this is a white guy who got shot up by police, so the whole police are after black people narrative, bogus. There are plenty of white people who do stupid things and get shot. There have been innocent white people who have been shot by police unjustly as well. Okay, but here let's. But you can. But still, this is something that police have to deal with. Okay, this is the role that police are supposed to play. Okay, and this is kind of some of the stuff that happens. And let's look at this.
Alone. Officer Joseph Murphy and Officer Christopher Wells go along with the woman to her house so that she can gather some things and feel protected. It's a common thing in criminal domestic violence, but as I've said on the channel a bunch of times, criminal domestic violence calls are some of the most dangerous calls that a police officer can go to. Officers get in fights and get shot all the time at criminal domestic violence calls.
Okay, this is Donut Operator. He's a former police officer. He would know. He also has other friends who are probably still in the police force today. Okay, he would know. He does all these breakdowns.
And that's what happened in this video.
And all types of stuff. And
You said you didn't see his car out front?
no.
Okay.
But his access to his firearm the firearm is definitely not in this home.
We have the safe upstairs, so I don't know if it's in here. I don't know if it's upstairs. I don't know what's that.
Do you have access to the safe? No.
As the officers are talking to the woman, she's coming down the stairs. She sees the boyfriend coming through the front door with a gun. He's obviously there to kill her and the police officers.
So that's a good idea for going. Where is your sister live?
Oh, he's coming. That's him. Let's see.
Looking at the video, I'm pretty sure the first officer whose body camera we were looking through, who turned around and saw him at first, was the officer that got shot in the thigh.
Okay. Yeah, let's go back. That is clearly a gun. Okay, if it wasn't obvious, the guy came in and started shooting police officers. This is what happens either during or post domestic violence calls. Okay? Somebody's going to have a gun and is going to start shooting up police for whatever reason. Okay? Because they're sick. This is what happens. Okay? And on top of that, police also have to deal with this.
We're talking about why Sergeant Timothy Grammond started carrying 145 rounds of ammunition on patrol. On August 25th, 2008, Officer Grammond was taking a quick break from patrol to buy a Star Wars game for his son when an emergency bolo popped right out of his radio for a bank robber. Witnesses stated that the bank robber was a black male, average build, driving a white Pontiac, and gave out a partial plate number. Unknown to anyone at that time, the suspect was a 37-year-old gangster disciple who vowed to kill any police officer who stopped him. Well, guess who stopped him? Officer Grammond jumped on the highway, traveling the last known direction of the robber, and spotted a vehicle matching the description. He pulls up next to the person in the white Pontiac and stated that the guy gave him the "oh crap, there's the police" look. The suspect pulled into a residential neighborhood, slammed on his brakes, and jumped out of the car. The suspect bailed out and began running towards Officer Grammond's car while simultaneously firing a 9mm Smith & Wesson Model 5906. The suspect cranked off 4 rounds into the patrol car before Grammond Grammons could even draw out his own .45 Glock and return fire. Now, Grammons is no spring chicken. He's a firearms instructor and a SWAT team leader. Within a few seconds, while still seated, he put 13 rounds through 3 holes in his own windshield. Grammons stated that he was confident some of the rounds were meeting their target, but the guy just was not going down. The suspect and Grammons completely emptied their weapons at about the same time. The suspect realizes he's empty and returns to his car for another gun. Grammons jumped out of his car as he saw the suspect walking back to his own vehicle. While doing a running reload, Grammons runs up to the suspect's passenger side as the suspect was walking towards the patrol car with a new gun in his hand, a .380 Bersa he grabbed out of the car. The suspect didn't see Grammons to his left by the passenger side of the suspect's car, so Grammons charged him, unloading his Glock with one hand. This means that Grammons only had one magazine left. The guy was still standing somehow, so Grammons ran to his patrol car to take cover. At this time, during the gunfight, unbeknownst to Grammons, the suspect had actually been struck 14 times by .45 caliber rounds. 6 of these were fatal wounds to his heart, right lung, left lung, liver, diaphragm, and right kidney. They were all fatal wounds, but they weren't immediately fatal. Grammons, now back at his patrol car, prowled out in the grass beside it while the suspect was shooting over the top of the car. When the suspect peeked under the car to see where Grammons was located, Grammons squeezed off a controlled burst of 3 rounds, striking the suspect 3 times in the head. 2 rounds struck him on each side of his mouth, and 1 hit him right in the top of the head, ending the gunfight. The suspect finally went down, but when medics showed up on scene, he was still showing vital signs. The gunfight lasted only 56 seconds. The suspect had a fully loaded...
Okay. Let me say this before Donut does. The criminal, as stated earlier, was part of a gang. He was a robber. He was armed. This officer knew what was going to happen. Okay. This criminal decided to open fire first. Okay. Not only that, but it hasn't been mentioned yet, but this guy was hopped up on who knows what. He was on a crap ton of drugs. Most likely. He had been struck 14 times and was still going, and it took 3 shots to the face to drop this guy. This officer was on his own, with only 3 mags. And even after that fight, this guy was still breathing. This guy was still breathing after that. Okay? Just because you shoot somebody several times doesn't mean that they're down and out for the count. Okay, which is why officers put corpses in handcuffs.
Loaded SKS with a 30-round magazine in the passenger seat of his car that he fortunately didn't pull out. The suspect's guns were also linked to 4 homicides in Chicago. Grammons ended the gunfight with only 4 rounds left in his last magazine. As far as injuries go for Grammons, he did have a small amount of shrapnel from a bullet in one of his shins. Grammons was taken to the same emergency room that the suspect was, and while he was in triage, he heard a surgeon angrily yell, "Why did the cop have to shoot him so many times?" He now...
The reason why is because he just would not go down.
Carries a 9mm Glock with 18 rounds in it, 3 mags, 17 rounds apiece, and 2 33-round Glock magazines in his vest. In total, he carries around 145 rounds of 9mm on his person. You can hear Officer Grammons tell his story on the Pro Arms podcast. I'll leave a link to that in the description and comments below. Thank you everyone for watching this episode of Crime Talk with Donut. If you would like to help support the channel, you can do so by clicking that join button right beside...
Okay. This is some of the stuff that police have to deal with. Okay? Although I do have to say that as great as cops are, okay, as great as I wish to believe that cops are, as I feel that cops are, they also take a while to get to you. Okay? So here, let's take a look, okay? I love cops. Okay, they're there for a reason. They're there to protect and serve. That's their job. I don't appreciate anybody hating on them. Okay. Now, if you want to show me, real abuse from police, okay, then I'll agree with you that that's horrible. Okay. the Nichols incident, that I would agree with just about anybody else that was a horrible thing, and that those cops, those so-called cops, should be fired. I will 100% agree with that. But for anybody who says that all cops are bad, I have to disagree with you 100%. Okay. But even at that, I also want my own guns so that I can protect myself. Which happens. Okay. How long does it actually take from the time you dial 911 for the police to arrive? It turns out that it varies widely based on where you live. Most cities aim for an average response time. Aim for an average response time of 5 to 6 minutes. Sorry, if you don't recall,
showing vital signs. The gunfight lasted only 56 seconds. The suspect...
That wasn't even a minute. That was 56 seconds. You'd be dead if this was you. Okay? If you were in this situation and you were unarmed, you'd be dead by now. 56 seconds. And the officer had already gone through the better part of 3 magazines in his gun. Okay? And most cities aim for an average response time of 5 to 6 minutes. But the data shows that more of a goal than a reality in a lot of the U.S. Okay? For me, I live farther away. I live a lot farther away. Okay? It's going to take police about 10 minutes to get to my location. 10 minutes! No. The police would not... Even at 5 or 6 minutes, you would not just be dead. It would be a full-blown crime scene, and the police now would have now been opening up an investigation into your death. And they would be looking for the suspect. They would not have the suspect in custody. You would have, no justice for who knows how long. You'd be a corpse. That is, if there's any issue I have with police, it is that they will not get to you fast enough. That they cannot get to you fast enough to protect you from the reality that you will be died in less than 2 minutes. You will be dead in less than 2 minutes, and they will find a crime scene, not a crime in progress. Okay, the other issue that I have is some of the ridiculous laws that they are forced to enforce. Okay, that is the other issue that I have, and it's not exactly with police specifically, it's just with the law. There are some actual very ridiculous laws. Of course, then again, even some of those laws had a specific reason for them. There's a law somewhere that you can't have an ice cream cone in your back pocket while you walk down the street. Now, that sounds ridiculous now, but back in the day when that law was passed, people would actually use that as a tactic to steal horses. Okay? Grand theft horse, you could say. Okay, they use that to lure horses away. But yeah. But police are great. You just got to know how to interact with them. Now, I'm going to share an experience shared over the radio about somebody else's interaction with police. Okay, they were pulled over twice and arrested once. Okay. The first time, they said that the first experience that they shared was they had been pulled over for an illegal turn. They explained to the officer that they were not aware that it was an illegal turn. But then more officers arrived and explained that he still had an unpaid speeding ticket. And this is in Massachusetts. And keep in mind, this guy is actually black. This guy is black in Massachusetts dealing with police. I know that some of you out there are going to be, oh no, he's in danger. But no, he's not. Because he's not a total idiot like some of the other people who might actually be in danger. Because they're idiots. But, you know, the officers kind of go, hey, we need to take you in. You have a unpaid speeding ticket. So he complied. He got put in cuffs and got put in the back of the patrol vehicle, but he was respectful to police, and he didn't mess around with them. He didn't go nah and tried to book it. He didn't try to resist arrest. He got out of the vehicle like he was told. He put his hands behind his back, and he was put in cuffs and put in a car. Here's the funny thing: he got to court, and when the reason came up for why he was there, being an unpaid speeding ticket, the judge just said dismissed. The officers that brought him in and the judge were all disgusted that this guy had to be brought in for a simple unpaid speeding ticket. The charges were dropped. Both tickets for the speeding ticket and the illegal turn, all those were dropped. And he was let go. He was let go. The second time he was pulled over, he had gone to the store to get groceries, realized he had forgotten his wallet, went back home to get his wallet, and went back to the store so that he could pay for all of his groceries. Apparently, the store owner was very suspicious about this. He was, this guy was wearing a big dark coat and a hat at the time, and the store owner was very suspicious and called the police. Now, this black guy, this is his second time to the store today, pays for his stuff, gets in his car, and is heading home. And almost when he gets home, the police pull him over and gets asked for his license and registration. He hands it over and he goes, so I'm not aware of any traffic laws that I violated. What's this about? Why were you at the store earlier? Like, I was there getting groceries. Okay, how many times have you been to the store today? I've been there twice. Okay, why? Because I had forgotten my wallet. And after all of this explained, the officer just looked very disappointed in himself. Said that he was sorry, said that the store owner was probably overreacting and was a bit too suspicious. And the black guy was let go because he had done absolutely nothing wrong. Most of these people who you see fighting with the police, that police are struggling to get into cuffs, that everybody's saying it's okay, they've done nothing wrong, they've done something wrong. That's all I have to say. Anybody who has bone to pick with police, I'm sorry if you've had a horrible experience. I'm sorry if it was actually a corrupt cop. I am very sorry. And I hope that you got, the justice that is due. Okay? That officer has been, discharged from his position, that he will no longer be in law enforcement. And that you are all good to go. But if that is not the case, if that was not a corrupt cop, if whatever investigation was done shows that that cop was in the right, and you're still upset about it, maybe you need to take a look at yourself and your own actions. I don't like people painting police wrong just because of a few bad interactions. If it was a truly bad cop, I'm sorry. That's not all the cops. Most cops are very good. But if it wasn't a bad cop, maybe it was you. Okay? Think about it. Think about it for 2 seconds. If you weren't on your high and mighty horse arguing with police, you would not have had such a bad time. If you just complied and cooperated from the start, everything would have been fine. So all I really have to say. Except that, well, with lowered police standards, things might start happening. Because standards have been lowered. Because some departments, although they might have gotten more funding now, and their standards are still low and their funding was cut at some point. I don't know which departments have received more or less funding. But funding the police is the last thing that you want. Well, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this bit of common sense. And I hope that this helps you better survive in this wasteland known as the United States. This wasteland without common sense.